Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our news in brief. Security and peace are restored in Jisr Al Shughour after the army entered the city and destroyed the armed terrorist organizations which committed a massacre against police and security men, perpetrated crimes and atrocities, and sabotaged public and private properties.
Army units entered Jisr Al Shughour and took control of the city after they managed to destroy the armed terrorist organizations which used guerrilla war tactics with the army units, using the mountain and the wood nature of the area as well as the dense populated neighborhoods to deploy their snipers. The gangsters also mined the bridges, streets and buildings and used sophisticated weapons, RPG rocket-propelled grenades, hand grenades, booby-trapped cars, big quantities of dynamite and explosive charges, which were later dismantled and confiscated by the army units. The population in Jisr Al Shughour and the nearby areas felt safety and security following the intervention of the army, and life has started to go back to normal after several days of insecurity caused by those terrorist organizations.
Before the entry of the army, there were gangsters who used to move in the streets, close the shops by force and demonstrate for 15 days. We suffered a lot. When the army entered, the armed gangs fled to the area. Those gangs even brought us cars to leave our houses and told us that they had already prepared houses to move in Khirbat al-Joz. But we refused, despite their false allegations that the army wanted to kill us and burn our houses. Here we are now, in the midst of the army which restored security and brought food to us. I thank the army which provided us with food and water and all of what we need. They always ask us about what we need. God protect them. I appeal to all my relatives who headed for north to come back into the area. We are comfortable here more than them after the entry of the army.
We are against any sabotage. We had determined to stay in our houses because this is our city and we are living in our homeland, and the army is our sons.
Acts of sabotage have been disclosed, and wherever gangsters and corrupt exist, we see the terrible consequences, like the mass grave which contains the bodies of police and security men who fell martyrs following the massacres perpetrated by those armed terrorist gangsters in Jisr Al Shughour. Such horrible crimes speak for themselves before Arab and foreign media and correspondents who were eyewitnesses at the scene and heard one of the perpetrators of the crimes talk about how they planned and carried out their atrocities.
My name is Anwar Nafi Al-Hosh. Head of the group is Hussein Nawaf. He was the one who committed this operation. We were about 40 people. Zatar is the head of the gang. Nad, his brother, is also head of another gang. The bodies were buried by the so-called Al-Ghab resistance and Al-Jisr resistance. Their names are Hussein, Rashid and Hamdan. We killed them. We killed the security men because Hussein said that either you kill with us, the security men, for freedom, or we will slaughter you. As for the weapons, we brought them from Khirbat al-Joz from Turkey. The number of those whom we buried in the cemetery, in the beginning they gave me 50,000 Syrian pounds. He promised to give me another 50, but he didn't. Zatar had funded us, and later he fled to Turkey. And Hussein Nawaf is the one who beheaded the security men and then fled. I have been detained for 2 days. I was the one who spoke about the mass grave because I felt it was a crime and injustice. As for the fugitive Anas Qatroun, he is also of Jisr Al Shughour. We belong to Zatra, who is funded by foreign countries and from Lebanon. This is what Zatar told me. I only know him for 25 days now. We received the weapons from Khirbat al-Joz. Rashid, Hussein, Abdel Fattah and others are those who stole the weapons from the security station. All the state buildings and public properties were under wreck and looting, including police stations, institutions, telecommunication centers, banks, post offices and others. The Justice Palace was the most affected by this sabotage because they destroyed all the files which indict them. They detonated the basement by dynamite, stole and broke everything under the juice. All the state buildings and public properties were under wreck and looting, including police stations, institutions, telecommunication centers, banks, post offices and others. The Justice Palace was the most affected by this sabotage because they destroyed all the files which indict them. They detonated the basement using dynamite, stole and broke everything under the disguise of freedom.